order, I just want to introduce Kathleen Johnson. So she is a registered dietitian who completed her training at Johns Hopkins Baby Medical Center, received her master's degree in nutrition education from Immaculata University. Since then, she has worked in multiple settings, including some time at Trader Joe's, overseeing the creation of nutrition facts panel for products, and the Center for Weight Management and Wellness at University of Maryland Medical Center. Today, she works one-on-one with individuals with gastrointestinal disorders, cancer, women's health, including pregnancy and fertility, weight loss, and general wellness. So she came highly recommended, so we're really happy to have her today. If I can tell you the number one question people ask me when they're going through all this is, what about my diet? So that's what she's going to talk about.
Well, good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I work with a lot of oncology patients, so it's nice to have everybody in one setting to go through this, because I know nutrition is one of the top questions for a lot of people. What do I eat? You know, that's a big part to our day is food. So hopefully I can answer a few questions for you as we go along. So there's basically two different avenues for nutrition with cancer. Okay, so we have nutrition during treatment. So whatever that might look like for you, whether you're doing chemo, radiation, surgery. So we have that form of nutrition. And then we have kind of the nutrition after that. You know, I've made it through, now what do I do? So I'm going to spend the majority of this talk talking about the after treatment nutrition. I'm happy to talk about specific things before, you know, during treatment as well. It's just such an individualized approach for everybody, so it's hard to pinpoint everything. So we'll be focusing on after treatment mostly. So I wanted to go over some updated research that just came out recently. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the American Institute of Cancer Research. It's a wonderful, wonderful website for really up-to-date information out there. And they just published their report. It's the Continuous Update Research Expert Report in 2018. So it's brand new. So it's all of the, you know, the new recommendations. And this really focuses on cancer prevention and survival as it relates to diet, exercise, and lifestyle. Okay, so it just gives us the new information, right? Rectal or colorectal cancer is the third most common cancer worldwide. It's so common. Which just makes this information so much more prevalent and relevant to everybody's life. It's expected, unfortunately, to increase by 60% over the next 15 years, which is kind of scary. So a lot of this, we can use lifestyle and nutrition to help bring those numbers back down and bring those numbers of recurrences back down too. So they talked about whole grains in this report. And one thing that they said was that whole grains can reduce your risk of colorectal cancer. They're talking specifically about 90 grams a day, and I'll give you an example of what that really looks like. But we know whole grains will reduce your risk by 17%, okay? And so after you've gone through your treatment, your nutrition really looks like what we like to present for preventative treatment, okay? You're going back onto that typical healthy lifestyle to prevent recurrence, prevent the cancer. So increasing whole grains. So I have some types here: barley, buckwheat, corn. It's not just whole wheat, it's lots of varieties in here. Quinoa, oats, millet are all great examples. And you can see, and let me see if I can you can't really see it. But if you look at the graphic there, you can just see what whole grain is, okay? So the top one, we see all three layers of the grain right there. We have the bran, the endosperm, the germ. When we're eating refined grains, the bran and the germ are both removed. So we're missing those two really key nutrients in our diet when we have refined grains. So we really want to make sure we go for whole grains. So what does 90 grams look like? Because you hear 90 grams, you're like, I don't know what that is. You can get 90 grams easily just by making whole grains a priority at every single meal. So let's say you were to have a porridge, like an oatmeal or some kind of whole wheat porridge for breakfast. Then maybe for lunch you make your sandwich on whole wheat bread, and for dinner you have brown rice. That in itself is 90 grams right there. So it's not too hard to get the 90 grams. Okay, so the next thing they talked about was fiber in this report, and it showed probable evidence that it does protect against cancer. Okay, and this kind of goes back to the whole grain. It's directly linked with that endosperm and the bran. We're getting more fiber in there, and so the question is that does that increase transit time through our intestines so things aren't lingering as long in there, and we're just becoming more regular? That's one of the proposed mechanisms. And we have different types of fiber. Okay, it's not just our fruits and veggies, it's lots of different types. So we have soluble fiber, oats, barley, beans and lentils, fruits and veggies. Then we also have insoluble fiber. So that's our dark leafy greens, whole wheat, nuts, seeds. So soluble fiber, think of it as like a gel. It has gelling properties. And so what it's going to do is almost form stool and make it more, make it softer, okay? Whereas the insoluble fiber is bulking, okay? That's bulking our stool up, okay? And we need both of them. We need both soluble and insoluble fiber. And so the recommendation in this report was a minimum of 30 grams of fiber a day. And that can be hard to get if you're not focusing on it, if you're not trying to get that. If you're eating the standard American diet that is high in refined grains, low in fruits and vegetables, that can be a challenge, okay? So we do want to just be mindful of this throughout the day. And so you can easily get this if you're doing 5 servings of fruits and veggies, if you're doing 3 servings of whole grains, you're gonna get up to this 30 grams. So it's not impossible, but again, being mindful about it, because the standard American diet does not get the 30 grams in. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard a lot on the red and processed meat, okay? There was a lot of mixed data out there as far as recommendations or studies behind this, but it did show that red meat had a probable connection. So probable meaning most likely increases your cancer risk, but we can't significantly say that. But what we can say is that processed meat has really convincing evidence that it's going to increase your cancer risk. Okay, so red meat, probable, we want to decrease it, but processed meat, definitely want to cut that out. Okay, so with red meat, we're talking about beef, pork, lamb. Okay, so those are the 3, so it's not just the red meat. And we want to aim for less than 12 ounces a week. Okay, now some people even go farther than that and recommend less, so maybe you're having it once or twice a month. But again, if we think about our typical standard American diet, we're probably blowing the 12 ounces out of the water. Okay, if we go to a steakhouse, the smallest steak you will ever find on the menus is like 8 ounces. Okay, the average one is at least 12 ounces, if not 16 ounces. Okay, so that one serving is above where you should be. Okay, and then the processed meat. So we're talking about deli meats. Okay, that's a big one that people don't necessarily group in with this, but we are talking about deli meats, cold cuts, and a lot of it has to do with the nitrates that are used to preserve it. Also bacon, sausage, hot dogs. This includes turkey bacon in this. Okay, so turkey bacon is touted as the healthy alternative to regular bacon, but it's still a processed meat. It's still going through the same processing as the regular bacon. Okay, it might have lower fats, it has the same sodium, the same preservatives, so we are grouping that in there. And so you really want to decrease the processed meat because that is something that we do know has a really solid connection. So dairy, possible protection, which is exciting because I think dairy gets a bad rap a lot of times. There's a lot of diets out there now that are cutting dairy out and avoiding it. Dairy can be a really healthy part to your diet. And, you know, some studies showed a positive correlation with decreasing your cancer risk, okay? It was more significant with milk and other dietary forms of calcium. So other sources of calcium, not dairy related, would be your green leafy veggies, okay? So we're talking about fiber, right? It's also almonds, fish. So there are other sources of calcium besides just the dairy. It was less significant with cheese. So unfortunately, because we all love cheese, right? Cheese didn't have as much of a link to the cancer decrease as the milk did or the other dietary forms. Alcohol. So evidence shows, obviously there's an increased risk with alcohol consumption. The more you consume, the more your risk goes up. This doesn't mean that you necessarily have to eliminate altogether. So the guidelines for men are max of 2 drinks a day for moderate amounts, and women is 1 drink a day. Okay. Some people will go farther than that and cut it down more. Obviously, if you're going through any kind of treatment, you want to avoid alcohol intake depending upon medications that you're taking. But in general, you know, 2 for men, 1 for women. And then supplements, because this is a big one for a lot of people. So this report talked about 3 supplements. The first was vitamin C. And vitamin C is an antioxidant that inhibits carcinogens and protects DNA. So that's where, you know, people are getting this information that would be a good supplement to help reduce cancer risk. The problem was there really wasn't a lot of evidence supporting that. So there's just no backup to that right now. Then with vitamin D, that's involved in cell growth and inflammation. Okay, there also was very little evidence supporting the fact that that is going to help decrease cancer risk. A lot of things affect vitamin D: sun exposure, obesity, smoking, all of which affect cancer risk as well. So we have to take that into consideration. And then finally, the multivitamin, really limited evidence with that. The recommendation for supplements is to avoid and try to get as much as you can through diets. We can get all of our vitamins and minerals through a healthy diet. Okay. The problem with supplementation is that we don't have the evidence there. We don't know what medications interact with that, or how that, you know, is really going to affect your body. And so the more we throw in there, the more disservice we're doing. So we try to take a very minimal approach with everything. Okay, so then the last one was physical activity. That had a very strong association in the decrease in cancer risk. So the more physically active you are, the better you are, okay? And this is a challenging one for a lot of people, depending upon where you are in the process. Sometimes you just don't have the energy to go and be physically active. This can take on a lot of forms for people, okay? The recommendation is 45 to 60 minutes of moderate physical activity a day. Again, this might be unrealistic for a lot of people, and that's okay. We don't have to start there. We can start really small. We can do little walks throughout the day, 5-10 minutes, getting up every hour and just trying to move a little bit. Movement is what is really important. The more we sit, the more harm we're doing to our body, okay? So this does not have to be consecutive movements. You can break it up and start small, okay? So with all those wonderful recommendations, now what, right? Like, what do we do? How can I leave here tonight and actually implement a realistic change in my life? The Mediterranean diet really is the best approach to taking all of these recommendations into account. So we're talking about a heavy plant-based diet. So increasing fruits, vegetables, legumes, nuts, avoiding processed food. So if it's in a package and it has, 50 ingredients in it, it's probably not the best, okay? That doesn't mean that can't ever be in your life, but we really want to try to reduce that amount. Using herbs and spices as much instead of salt, okay? If you're doing your own research and reading that, cumin lowers your risk of cancer, okay? Rather than taking a cumin supplement, I want you to put cumin in your food, okay? That's how we're getting all of these health benefits and these antioxidants. We're not taking large amounts of any supplement, we're just adding to our diet. Structured meals. This one's really important. A lot of times we skip meals. We skip breakfast or lunch. That's setting us up to have large portions at another point to our day, okay? It's really important to have structured meals and teach your body that it does have an adequate source of nutrition and energy coming in, okay? Especially if you are going through treatments, you need more protein, your needs just change, okay? So skipping meals is not gonna benefit you. Moderation, that goes back to the structured meals, okay? So we're not having large quantities of anything, it's smaller amounts. And then this obviously is an individualized approach too. Depending upon your course of treatment and where you are, we've got to change up fiber, lactose, all of which can have an impact on bowel movements and cramping, abdominal pain, and so that's where we would individualize diet for everybody. So this is a picture that I like to use a lot, and this is a plate that was created by the Harvard School of Public Health. So this is their healthy eating plate. I think it's the best visual of what we're ultimately going for, okay? So this plate is based off of an 8 to 9 inch plate, okay? So it's like the width of a paper. We're talking about a large salad plate. So not our huge dinner plates. If you think back to Thanksgiving meals or holiday meals and we bring out our big plates, those aren't it. We want smaller, okay? And on that plate, we're dividing it into sections, okay? So our first section is gonna be the protein I'm gonna talk about, okay? So we have some kind of healthy protein there. Protein is the building block of our muscles, our cells, our organs. So it's really, really important. If you went through surgery, if you have inflammation, your needs have increased, okay? So we need all of that to heal properly. So a quarter of that plate has to be a healthy protein. Think of it as our long-term energy, okay? So that's getting us through a long-term period, okay? Then we have whole grains on top of that. That's the second quarter to your plate. Whole grains, again, are bringing fiber, different nutrients. It's a carbohydrate. Carbohydrates break down into sugar, okay? Sugar is not awful. That's one question I get from a lot of people. Should I cut sugar out of my diet? We need sugar, okay? Healthy things break down into sugar. That's just how our body processes it. And that is our short-term energy. So that gets us from breakfast to lunch, from lunch to dinner. That gives us that energy, okay? Now we want to pick the right types, okay, not the refined grains. but we do need that there. And then the last half is going to be our fruits and vegetables. Okay, notice that fruit is the smallest section up there. Okay, fruit's healthy, it's a great part of the diet, but it does also break down into sugar. Okay, for a lot of reasons, we want to control how much sugar you're taking in. Not from necessarily a cancer growth perspective, but from a glucose perspective. We want to keep blood sugar stable. Okay, so keeping fruit in moderation. A lot of people think fruit is so healthy, so have a big bowl of it. That breaks down into a lot of sugar at once. So we just want to control that. And then vegetables. Okay, that's our biggest section. We're going to get lots of fiber, lots of nutrients from that. And then last but not least, we have our healthy fat up in the left-hand corner there. We need fat. Okay, for a lot of years, public has been doing low fat. Okay, we don't necessarily want that. We need fat. Fat fuels our brain. That's where we get our brain energy from. Okay. Good fats help with inflammation. So there's a lot of positive things you're getting from this. It's again choosing the right foods. So to talk a little bit about each of the categories, for protein, okay, so I mentioned moderation, right? We want moderate serving sizes. So what is that? 4 ounces, more or less. So if you look at the palm of your hand, that's 4 ounces right there. Okay, so if you think about like a big chicken breast that you're gonna cook, that's more than that. Okay, so it's probably like 2/3 of that. Okay, if you're again going out to steak dinner, we're getting way more than the palm of our hand there. And a lot of people get scared when I say this because they think they're gonna be hungry. You know, I'm like taking food away from them. I'm not, because think about the structured meals. Okay, we're not skipping meals. We're having a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner. Okay, these plates, which I should have, let me go back 1 second here. This plate should last you a good 4 hours, maybe 5 hours. Okay, if you're eating this plate and you're hungry in 2 hours, something was missing, okay? Something was not there, because if all of these components were here, this should last you 4 hours, okay? Most often I find that carbs are missing for a lot of people. You know, we're in this low carb craze now, so we miss carbs. A lot of times we miss protein, especially in the morning time. For breakfast, it's really, really low. Okay, which is not good. We only absorb so much protein at once, so we've got to have it consistently. So this should last you 4 to 5 hours. If you're going longer than that, you will need a snack in there, okay, which we'll talk about. But in general, that's the spacing. So with protein, it's 4 ounces. So if you're having the structured meals, that should keep you fairly satisfied. We're limiting red meat, which we've already talked about. Seafood, I want seafood at least twice a week. This has really good sources of omega-3s in there. You want to aim for like a wild caught seafood, okay? So avoiding farm raised if you can, and going for more of like a wild caught. And then for other meats, I do recommend organic if you're able to choose organic. Whole eggs, okay? None of this plain egg whites. We want the yolk in there. The yolk has good fats and B vitamins, and it is a really important part for you nutritionally. And then vegetarian sources, because remember, we're increasing our plant proteins. We don't want just the meat focus. So trying tofu, if you haven't. Who here has tried tofu? Is anybody? Okay, so good, yeah, a good amount of you. What did you think? It was okay for some. You have to marinate it and season it pretty well, but it's a really great part to the diet. So there is the question, not so much with colorectal cancer, obviously, but with breast cancer, with the soy effect, and some people have multiple cancers. Soy has phytoestrogens, which is metabolized completely differently than regular estrogen. So it's not something that you have to avoid. Soy can be a really healthy part to the diet. You can do soy milk, tofu, edamame beans. We want to avoid processed soy. Okay, so like the soy supplements, the soy bars, we want to avoid those, but that's in the processed section. Okay, so the whole forms of it, enjoy it. Okay, they're really great sources of protein. Lentils, other sources of nuts. Okay, that's giving you lots of fiber in there. Nuts. Okay, nuts are a really great part of the diet. Walnuts have more omega-3s, which are going to help with inflammation. Almonds have more calcium. So back to that calcium link that I mentioned earlier. Yogurt and hard cheeses. Okay, milks. Remember that, dairy is not bad. Okay, dairy can be a really healthy part to the lifestyle. And then milk, just watch lactose content if you are having symptoms. That would be a really individualized basis, okay? And then avoiding the processed meats, which I've mentioned already. So grains, so that's the next quarter of our plate, okay? Serving size is about half a cup, and this is one where we always have to rein ourselves in a little bit, okay? So half a cup, again, probably fits in like the palm of your hand, okay? So it would be like a scoop in your hand. If we think back to when we make rice or pasta and we're scooping out onto our plate, we 99% of the time do more than this half a cup, okay? Or think to spaghetti night. When we're making spaghetti, it's usually the prominent piece to our plate, right? So it's going to be more than that half a cup, okay? There's nothing wrong with carbs. There's nothing wrong with grains. We need them, but we have to just watch the amount. So one thing I like to recommend for people just starting out is to actually scoop with a measuring cup, just so you know what it is. Just so you get a visual in your head of how much is this. You don't have to do this forever, okay? Just do it for a week and see what you think. How much have you actually been getting in? We're also doing minimally processed grains. We want them in their natural state, limiting refined grains, because we want the full grain. We want the endosperm, we want the bran, okay? All that good fiber. So that's going to be brown rice, wild rice, whole wheat pasta and bread. There's nothing wrong with some gluten. We need it, unless you have celiac disease or IBS that could cause some problems. Quinoa, barley, millet, farro, oats. So there's a lot of alternatives out there. Variety really is the key for this. Too often in, again, our standard American diet, we focus so heavily on wheat. And again, it's not that wheat is bad. It's a great source of nutrients, but so are other things. So I do want that variety in there. You could also put in potato would be in this category. Sweet potato would be in this category, okay? Although it's not technically a whole grain, it's being broken down in the same capacity in our gut, so we're going to treat it as such. Fruits and vegetables. Remember, that's our biggest part. Fruit, no more than half a cup per serving. And then, of course, amounts, textures, and such really depend upon personal symptoms. Some people have to avoid seeds. Some people have to go for cooked over raw. That really is where we get into that individualized approach. So fat, okay? that really important piece that we need at every single meal. Fat makes you full, okay? We want good sources of fat, so we're avoiding the saturated fat. We're avoiding butters, coconut oil. Coconut oil does not have the wrap it's been said to have for many years. So, if you're making, I always tell people, if you're making a Thai dish and you want coconut flavor, go ahead and use a coconut oil. But don't use coconut oil as your primary source of fat, okay? I want you to go for olive oil. That has wonderful omega-3s in there. Canola oil is fine too. Nuts and seeds. Those are considered a fat. So walnuts, almonds, peanuts, flaxseed, chia seeds, hemp seeds. All those are great additives. You can sprinkle them into oatmeals, into yogurts. You can have them in a trail mix for a snack. We want to watch the amounts, like everything that I've said on the previous slides, moderation, right? So it's about a 1/4 cup or 2 tablespoons, okay? And then avocado is another example of a really good healthy fat. So we're decreasing fried foods, okay? We're decreasing processed foods. All of those have those saturated fats in there, and we're trying to go more towards this, towards these sources, okay? And so the takeaway with all of this is to really have a healthy lifestyle. Most importantly, you want to maintain a healthy weight, okay? Extra weight causes inflammation in your body, okay? And what we don't want to do is have excess inflammation, because that is going to increase your risk of cancer, okay? We want to limit alcohol, increase physical activity, limit the red and processed meats, increase fiber, and avoid supplements and get it through food. So it's not super complex that we're talking about. We really are talking about a very much a simplified approach and variety. This does not mean that there is not place for pizza or cake or cookies. I'm a realist, I understand that things happen. We eat for a lot of reasons other than hunger. Eating is a very social aspect for everybody, okay? And that's an important part to this, okay? Yes, we need to fuel our body, but we also need to get that social energy and that social pleasure out of it, okay? Not to say that you will be eating cakes and cookies and pizza every single day. I would really like to take an 80-20% or 80-20 ratio here. So 80% of the time, you're really trying to make good choices, follow the Mediterranean diet, create your plate, okay? And then sometimes it doesn't happen, and that's okay, okay? Sometimes you go into a Christmas party and you just want a cookie, and that's okay. Make sure that that is a controlled amount and that you're still getting in your protein and some vegetables when you can, and you're trying to still be mindful of everything. But a cookie is not going to increase your risk of recurrence. Okay? Any questions? Yep.
So many of us have had large parts of our colon taken out, sigmoid related, I think, many of us, and either have ostomies or have reversals.
Mm-hmm.
And things like raw vegetables or nuts, lentils are an impossibility. I myself have 3 blockages. The only way I can really eat any vegetables, and prior to this I was an athlete. The only way I can eat vegetables is if they're like mush. If they're not mush, forget it.
Right.
And I know we have different variants of where our cancers occur, but I guess this being the best case scenario, how do we address a healthier diet for those of us who are able types. You know, we were talking about eating the whole apple. We have to peel an apple before we eat it. So, you know, it's those kind of things. So, I guess what would be your advice be for us?
Sure. Yeah. So just to kind of rephrase the question, when you have large resections and you're unable to have raw fruits and vegetables, fiber, what do you do? How do you take away these recommendations? It's all going to be about the route and the form of the food. And so you may still be able to get in fruits and vegetables. It's just going to look different. Smoothies are a great option because we're blending everything together. So that's a great way to throw some spinach in there. Okay, just a little bit, blend it all up. That's a great way to put a little bit of oats in there or flaxseed. You can still have nuts. Nut butter is going to be more of the route that you're going to go rather than whole nuts and seeds. So, and then with beans, maybe like a hummus instead of like the actual bean. Some people are able to tolerate a little bit of hummus. So it's going to be very much the texture, okay? And we can still make it palatable, you know, going for the well-cooked green beans and zucchini. Obviously, salads are not going to be your friend. I think the best route are smoothies, to be completely honest with you, because we just have so much more versatility with what we can have. And so you can still reap all of the benefits of this from just how you're approaching it. There's also foods that can help thicken stool, can help slow down outputs. Flaxseed is a wonderful one. So people add flaxseed, peanut butters or nut butters, thicken. Psyllium powder or Metamucil is something that we use a lot to just, again, thicken. And so sometimes if we can control the output of stool, whether it's from an ostomy or not, foods are better tolerated. Yes?
We talked about keeping down inflammation in your body. What about taking turmeric tablets?
Good question. So the question was about taking turmeric and inflammation. So turmeric is a spice, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard a lot about. Turmeric itself doesn't have the properties to lower inflammation. It's a specific part to the turmeric, which is the curcumin part, that is actually responsible for lowering inflammation. Sometimes it's helpful for arthritis and other disease states. I don't necessarily recommend it for oncology patients. One, because we don't want to do supplements during treatments. And then two, some people are on long-term medications or long-term treatments afterwards that we don't want to add in. I think that the better route is to get it through food. And so if you want to sprinkle on some turmeric in your seasonings, that would be a more appropriate way to go. Yes?
Do you have a recommendation on eggs? You know, there's a million different kinds of eggs. Organic, cage-free, free-range, cage-free, cage-free,
So the question was, what type of eggs do we eat? Free range, cage-free, organic? It's confusing, isn't it? So and they all mean different things. So free range, if you're really concerned about like the life of a chicken, that would be the route to go. Health-wise, I always recommend the omega-3 eggs for people. You can buy eggs that have added omega-3s in it. And what that just means is that they've fed the chicken's feed that has omega-3s, so it's coming out in their egg. And omega-3 is a great fat that does help with inflammation, so that's in our olive oils and walnuts and seafoods, and so it's a great way to just up that amount. Yep.
Speaking of that, what about other, you mentioned olive oil and canola. What about like walnut oil, avocado oil, as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
the avocado, using that on a salad?
Right.
Is
So
that beneficial?
the question was, what about like walnut oil, avocado oil for omega-3s on salads? I think those are great sources and can definitely be used in conjunction with olive oil. A lot of them have different heat temperatures that you can cook with, so it really also depends upon how you're using them. So things like walnut oil, and they tend to degrade more, and so you would definitely want to use them on something cold like a salad. And I think it's a great option. You are still getting the omega-3. You're not necessarily getting the fiber from the nuts, but if you're, back to the first question, if you're having, if you have had a large resection and you can't necessarily have the whole walnut, that's a great option for still getting the benefit in. Yeah. Good question. Yes.
I have a question for you. Ever since my, resection and being all put back together and stuff, what I've noticed is my biggest issue that I have, and I try to do the best I can
Mhm.
with vegetables and fruits, but just like Joy was saying, it's very limited for myself, and it's not going to speak for everybody. So I'm very limited. Like the only fruit that I've been able to tolerate is a banana and maybe half an apple, and that is it. Anything else goes right through.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, for breakfast, I'm just going to run through my daily because
Sure.
I have a question about it. In the morning, I normally eat just oatmeal, and then midday, like a banana. In between, for lunchtime, normally eat turkey breast meat,
Mhm.
whole wheat bread, maybe like 5 or 6 grapes, but I have to peel them,
Mm-hmm.
and some like graham crackers, something to munch on.
Mhm.
Afternoon, half an apple. Dinner, a little fish, maybe a little chicken.
Mhm.
Cut out all red meat and everything. But the issue that I have is it doesn't seem to matter what I'm adding or not. For myself personally, I always have a constipation issue. And I'm trying to figure out what can I add to where I'm not living in the bathroom, but yet what can I add to where it's. And I've tried everything. I mean, I've tried to balance it. I feel like I'm lucky where I'm at. I'm just having 1 or 2 bowel movements a day.
Mhm.
They're fairly normal, but at the same time, it's not as easy as it was before. And
Right.
I just don't know what the heck I'm missing. I'm trying
What
to,
you're doing.
what am I doing? What do I need to add more of? Because I keep thinking to myself, but honestly, I'm kind of limited with what I can add.
Yeah.
And I've tried fish oil and all that stuff, but it doesn't really work for me.
So the question was, when you have had a resection and you're limited with your fiber intake, how do you combat the constipation, right, that ensues with it? One of the big things that I would use for that would be like a psyllium or Metamucil powder to just start a regimen on to help soften stools and make it easier to come out. You want to make sure you're drinking lots and lots of water with that, because if you don't, that can exacerbate the constipation. That is a struggle for a lot of people when the raw fruits and veggies and all of the the typical places for fiber aren't there. You can still get fiber in. Think more of like the soluble fiber, so like the oatmeals are going to be really good. Flaxseed. So you can add some flaxseed to your oatmeal. A smoothie, again, because you can kind of pack in a few more things. So there are maybe a few more tweaks that you can make to your diet. That may not be enough though, which is where something like psyllium powder may come into place. Yes?
A little back away from 17 to 18. This is 18 stuff we just looked at. We've been looking at this for a while. Were there any surprises in 18? Nothing struck me up there as like, OMG, that's interesting for 18. It looks like 17 to me, and I got sick in 15. It looks like 15 to me.
Yeah.
So we're kind of on a steady course. Nothing really surprising.
Yeah. So the question was, how are the 2018 guidelines different from the 17 and 16 and 15? They're really there really weren't any huge surprises, to be completely honest. I think the red meat stuff came out, was it 2015? I mean, it was a little bit ago. So there were not huge surprises this time around. I think there was more research that went into it. So it's updated research studies that just made these recommendations that much stronger. And so in the past, when we thought like, oh, we have some evidence that shows that, fiber reduces cancer risk. We just now have more studies and larger studies to back that up, that show how important some foods are, some foods aren't. But as far as, really like life-shifting new ideas, there weren't tons. Yeah. Yes?
You talked about the fats and that it's healthy too.
Mm-hmm.
What if fats increase your transit time and you don't actually handle them so well? What can you do to improve that?
It's going to be, so if the question was if fats increase, bowel transit time, what can you do? It's really going to come down to the amount of the fats. So trying to have small amounts and space things out. For some people that do have more resections or and struggle with increased stooling, smaller meals might be needed. So I talked about, the basic approach of the 3-meal-a-day concept. That might be too much for you. You might need to break it up a bit more and do more of 5 to 6 small meals a day, so that we're decreasing the amount that you're putting into your body at any one time. And that can in itself help with the processing, just to decrease that effect. Yeah. Yeah.
I came in late, so you might have addressed this
Uh-huh.
in the first or second slide, but I know there's a lot of studies that have come out about coffee benefiting, the more coffee you drink, or coffee drinkers have a decreased risk of colorectal cancer. I don't know, I drank a pot a day and I still got it. But do we know if there's any we eat? What about what we drink? I get the alcohol.
Right.
Most of us now have to drink copious amounts of water a day.
Mhm.
Do.
Mhm.
64 ounces a day. Is there a recommendation for hot liquid versus the cold liquid, tea, coffee, combination thereof, as far as we're concerned with their different caffeine?
Yeah. Good question. So the question was, what are the liquid recommendations, which I didn't touch on. So that's great. Obviously, with your case with larger resections, fluids are just going to be increased. You're going to need lots of fluids. Okay. So hydration is really, really important. Generally, we want a lot of this to come from water. Okay. So we're eliminating juices, sodas, anything with sugar in it. Okay, so we're really trying to go towards that water. Coffee, there are some reports of it, helping. I think it's a very fine line with coffee. 1 to 2 cups a day is great. I think when we start to get up more than that, one, it takes the place of other liquids, so we tend to be dehydrated that way. So we have to, really just be mindful that we're not just drinking coffee all day long and we're still getting our fluids in. After resections with stools, that can stimulate bowel movements. Okay, so caffeine is not something you want to do. You want to avoid caffeine sources, and that's through tea, coffee. As far as temperature goes, it really is whatever feels good for you, okay? Some people have temperature preferences. Cold tends to seize things up a little bit, so I find that some people can't do cold beverages. You have to go for a room temperature or a warm beverage, as to if you should exclusively drink cold or exclusively drink hot. It really is an individual preference with that. And so the big thing is staying hydrated, which will look like a lot of things for a lot of people. Some people need like rehydration supplements or taking a different approach with that. But trying to at least get your 64 ounces in, mainly through water. And you might flavor the water. You could do fruit infusions, vegetable infusion. You could put stuff in there to flavor it a little bit, but really trying to focus on that. I would definitely look at diet to see, are you getting enough fiber? Is it too much texture? Is it too much insoluble fiber that is causing the issues? So with your nuts, seeds, skins, but then how much water are you getting in? Okay, because there could be an underlying like constipation link right there. Right, but it could still affect the form of the stool. So I would definitely look at diet, water, fluids. I think are a big one for a lot of people, and then go from there. Yes.
Do you have any thoughts about things like almond milk, like as a substitute for cow's milk, or?
So the question was about almond milk, if that can be used as a substitute. I mean, I think it can, especially if you have lactose problems. Keep in mind, though, that almond milk, rice milk, cashew milk, any kind of those milk alternatives, they don't have any protein there. Okay, so cow's milk has protein. The other options do not have protein. You're still going to get calcium because it's fortified. So I think it can be a fine option for people, especially if you are having problems, but just being aware of what you're lacking. Yes?
When you talk about the process, would you consider
The question was, would I consider canned tuna or salmon processed? No, not really, because it's packed. I would try to go for like a wild caught canned tuna or salmon, but no, I wouldn't consider it processed. And I think it can be a great source of seafood and omega-3s.
I don't know if anybody's asked this, but probiotics, they're getting
Good
people always ask.
Good question. Yes. So the question was on probiotics. There is a lot of really varied research out there. We don't recommend it during treatment. I have seen some oncologists start to dabble in things with probiotics, but there just is there's no evidence right now to support that. Especially depending upon your course of treatment. You could be immunocompromised, and introducing a live strain of bacteria is not what we necessarily want to do. So it's not something that I recommend to patients. Now long term, let's say we're now past treatments, probiotics still are tough because it is a very individualized approach. We don't have the information to know which strain of probiotic helps to do what and helps which person. So it is kind of a shot in the dark that we're doing, okay? Everybody's gut microbiome is individualized and very, very different, okay? One of you may swear by L.D.N probiotic or Culturelle that it's helping you. And it may be, but the next person does nothing, okay? So it's not to say that it couldn't do something long term, but it is very much a trial and error approach with that. If you don't feel like it's helping, it's probably not helping. We can make our own probiotics. So probiotics is just a healthy bacteria. Our gut is filled with healthy bacteria that we create. Our gut is constantly turning over and creating that. And how we do that is by fueling up with something called prebiotics, which are found in all of these healthy foods that we've talked about, and that is helping you create the probiotics yourself. So I'd rather you do like the healthy diet than just taking the pills.
What about digestive enzymes? I know, like personally, for me, digestive enzyme for every meal is tremendous. I mean, it really changed my world as far as what I could eat. Can you speak to that a little bit? How
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting my confirmation.
Sure. The question was, what is the role of digestive enzymes? So digestive enzymes are going to help you break down food, okay? It's designed to take right before you eat to help break things down. Depending upon your symptoms, they can be a really helpful tool for some people. I like to look at it as a support tool. So it's not changing anything, it's not fixing anything, it's just there to support you. I like to look at diet first to see if there's something else going on and something else that we can do to help support you without just going to digestive enzymes, because sometimes it's almost like a Band-Aid, okay? Like there's something else happening, so we don't want to ignore that. But it can definitely play a really helpful role with a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, when I first got reversed and had my surgery, I mean, there were things I couldn't go near, couldn't eat. Even cook, like if somebody gave me like cooked broccoli, I would be like, yeah, I don't think so. I would be out of work for like a week. But the digestive enzymes, I can do those things. I can eat the cooked vegetables.
Yep.
And, sometimes I can even try iceberg lettuce.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but so I know for me it's been a big help.
Yeah, there definitely is a time and place for them, so they can definitely be helpful. You wanna make sure you're getting good brand and taking it appropriately. But yeah, it definitely can be very helpful. Oh, where to go first? I think.
In
Yeah.
regard to that question, do digestive enzymes work only on the digestion in the stomach, or do they affect the food in the colon then as well?
They don't. So the question was, does digestive enzymes affect the food in the colon? They don't quite make it down that far. They really are affecting what is in the stomach and the initial breakdown of the food.
So I'm curious, why is that resection in the colon can then further up affect the digestion of the food? Do you have an explanation for that?
I'll try. So the question was, why does colon resection affect farther up digestion in the GI tract? So our colon, think of our colon as like the gatekeeper in our body. The colon is designed to hold stool. So as stool comes down and foods are digested, it holds it, creates a formed stool, and then you have a bowel movement. Okay? So it's a gatekeeper. We can control how that happens. So without the colon, there is no gatekeeper. There is no stopping point there. Okay? So things are moving very, 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 very quickly. And that is going to affect higher up. Okay? So as things are moving through faster, they're not being held, they're not being broken down to its fullest. And that's going to affect upstream slightly. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yes.
Is there any type of food I can eat for neuropathy?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Is there any type of food I can eat for neuropathy in my feet? I used to have it in my hands and now.
Is there any type of food to eat for neuropathy? There's not going to be a miracle food. I can't stand here and say eat this and you will have feeling back. I think that healthy fats and omega-3s are going to be your best bets to just try to help with inflammation and everything, and also make sure you're getting enough protein in. Yes?
What's your experience been with fasting and intermittent fasting?
Ooh, good question. So the question was on fasting and intermittent fasting. That's a big topic of conversation, and there's a lot of research coming out on that now. I think that, and it's interesting. I don't like daytime fasting or daytime intermittent fasting. I think you can accomplish this through nighttime if this is something that you're interested in. So you could say you stop eating at 7 o'clock and you restart at 7 a.m. So that's 12 hours that you've fasted. The idea behind the fast is that you are letting your body rest and reset and getting all of those great benefits from there. That can be accomplished overnight. So it doesn't have to be, you know, every third day I'm not eating, or, you know, I'm not eating between like 9 and 2 p.m. I would harness the nighttime for that, and get the benefits that way. Was there a question back there?
I was thinking of making a motion to break the fast. Are you staying through dinner?
I am staying through dinner, yes. So I will be here. If you guys have more questions for me, yes.
Just one more question. Would it be possible if we got your PowerPoint presentation?
Yeah.
And then I could give it to everybody?
Yeah,
On the website?
Yeah, I'll email that to you.
Okay, that'd be great.
Yeah, yeah. And so and this is my contact information too, and I'll have some cards available for you guys. So if you have more questions, just let me know. I see people a variety of places. I'm up at Hopkins Integrative Medicine Center. I'm also at this wonderful physical therapy place called Indigo, which we have a great oncology massage person who I highly recommend. We also have a pelvic floor specialist there. So I have that information too for you. So lots and lots of options. Okay, you're welcome. Thank you for being here.